Loud. Okay. Welcome, one and all. Today is the 22nd day of Shvat.
Yes, it is.
Last week, this time, was Tu B'Shvat. So let's hope my everything records today. Last week, my private recording did not come out. Okay, so before we begin, Hanoch made a very brilliant observation. He looked at the sheet and he said, Rabbi, we did this pasuk last year. And I said, yes, I know. So the question, the unspoken question was, why are we doing it again? So I could give two answers. One is condescending, and the other one is the right answer. The condescending answer is, doesn't matter what we did last year, you're not going to remember it. But I'm not going to say that. Because you might remember a little bit. But Torah is vast, and I remember exactly what I spoke about last year. And today I've prepared 4 new interpretations.
Whoa.
So this might, for some of you, now I don't think Janet was with us a year ago at this time. I think you joined a bit later. So some of you say, oh, I remember this. Well, if you do, then shame on you that you're not going to know the pasuk right away. Okay, but there's going to be all new episodes on this pasuk. So not to worry. You may remember something we did last year, and that's fine. But I know we're going to do much more. Okay, so with that aside, we're going to look at the first pasuk in Yisro. And here is the whole pasuk. Now, I didn't really want to divide it up this way, but this word would not connect with anything else. It just would not allow me. So anyway, I've got the 2 hard words in the pasuk. And look over here, we have 4 Rashis. And there really were more, but I didn't put them in. 4 Rashis. We'll do that. We'll do that together, so not to worry. But when you're going to do this pasuk, you're going to have a few questions that you have to deal with. I see it's better when I put questions. When I don't put questions, you guys, in 4 or 5 minutes, some of you think you have the whole pasuk already. But if you have to answer the questions and all of a sudden, oh, I don't know the answer to the question, you got to think a little harder. So the questions you're going to have to answer is, what is problematic with saying the words in the pasuk, Chosein Moshe? What's wrong with that? What's the problem?
I know one thing.
Hang on. Question 2, what did Yisro actually hear? Okay, it's based on what you see in the pasuk. What is problematic with the word Lemoshe in the pasuk? What is problematic with the last 6 words of the pasuk? And question 5, didn't the whole world hear what Yisro heard? Okay, now, when you're done with that, if you got some time, we're gonna, this thing is not letting me expand. Okay, anyway, in the Haggadah, we got to start thinking of the Haggadah, guys, because believe it or not, Pesach is just around the corner. It's 7 weeks and 2 days is Pesach already. Can you imagine? 3 days is Pesach. But anyway, we're going to say in one of the parts of the Haggadah, we were Avadim Hayinu Lafar, we were slaves to Par in Egypt. And if the Holy One, blessed is He, had not taken us out of Egypt, we and our children and grandchildren would be enslaved to Paro in Egypt till today. You're familiar with that paragraph, right?
Yes.
Right. The question is, what historical question is there against this statement? In other words, what can we say historically that would show that that statement would appear to be problematic? And we'd have to figure out an answer to that. All right, so these are the options over here. You can definitely, if you have time, you could definitely do the first Rashi, and you could even do the 3rd and the 4th. Second one's a little tricky. Okay, but there's a lot here. Your minds will probably remember a little bit, but then it's going to be lots of new things over here. So I'm going to stop the share and see how we're going to break things up today. let's see how we're going to break it up. We're going to do it into 2 groups, and let's see how it comes out. What happened? What's going on? Oh no, I put down let participants choose. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Okay, let's see if I got a good setup here. No, I don't like that setup. Let's make one movement over here. Let's move this person to here. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I'll give you about 10-15 minutes to be able to answer these questions, and it's going to be a very exciting evening, guys. So we're opening up the rooms.
Read the pasuk first. Let's read the pasuk first.
Yeah. So you can read it?
Sure. Want me to read it? Go ahead.
Vaishma Yitro Kohen Midian Oten Moshe Ekol Asher Asa Elohim Le Moshe U Le Israel Amo Ki Otsi Adonai Et Israel Le Israel.
Perfect.
You want to read it again? Read it.
No, I'll take it. Vaishma Yisro Kohen Midian Hosei Moshe As Kol Asher Asa Elohim LaMoshe Israel Amo Ki Hotzi Adonai Es Israel Mitzrayim.
Can you translate it? Can you translate it first?
Yeah, sure.
Vaishma Yitro.
And Yisro
And short.
Yisro the priest of Midian. What? And Yisro heard the son, the priest of Midian.
Yeah.
And Yisro, the priest of Midian, heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
The priest of Midian heard. Then it says father-in-law of Moshe.
Yeah, father-in-law of Moshe.
Kol Asher Elohim LaMoshe.
Ekol Asher Asa Elohim Le Moshe. All what Hashem did to Moshe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All what Hashem did
All that what
for Moshe.
or which Asher which
yeah.
which Hashem did to Moshe and to
The Jewish people.
all of them, the Jewish Amor is
Nation.
Yeah.
All the Jewish nation.
Jewish nation.
Is that because or who? Is that he or who or because? Who?
Nation.
Nation of Israel.
Nation.
Who Hashem brought out of Mitzrayim? I'm missing the word Hotzi. Who
Key. That.
is that or who?
That.
That. Otsi is
Exit.
brought out.
It's yeah.
Otsi is
Who that
brought
Hashem
out.
brought out of Mitzrayim.
Hashem.
Hashem
Hashem brought out
Jewish people from Mitzrayim.
all Israel.
Okay.
Israel, not all.
Okay.
Hashem brought out Israel.
So what's the promise saying?
Brought out
Hossein Moshe.
From Israel.
from Egypt.
So want to do question 1?
Yeah.
The promise saying Hossein Moshe. One thing is that we already know that he's the father of Moshe from earlier. Why they're repeating? It didn't say that we know who Yisro is already. That's
Why
not anything.
repeating? Why repeating?
Why repeat?
I already know who Yisro is.
No, but it is. No, why it is saying father-in-law? That is what I was asking.
Why do they tell Yisro is his father-in-law? I'm saying we already knew he was his father-in-law. That's the problem. Nothing of anything else.
So why Choten Moshe?
Choten Moshe is father-in-law of Moshe.
Yeah, but Choten, there's no replacement for that word.
Oh, I made a mistake.
Word.
Well,
It shouldn't be Jose Moshe, it's Kohen Midyan.
Okay.
That's the
was
problem.
it called Kohen Midyan?
Yes, Kohen Midyan.
Just tell them also.
No, everybody heard, but he came first, right? That is the thing.
No, they all.
Rabbi, you're on mute.
Can't hear him. There he goes.
I failed to turn off the record, so everything we're talking about in the groups got recorded, but that's okay. Okay, let's begin the pasuk.
Is it on?
It's on. We are on the record. It's recording as we speak.
I don't see the left off.
Right there. You see the little cloud there?
Oh, there it is. I can't
See the little cloud? There it is. And it's clicking off. We're in minute 30. Okay, who would like to read this delicious pasuk? Any volunteers? Okay,
I'll read it.
Kathy is volunteering.
Perfect.
The only reason it works better when they read, it's amplified and they're not reading through a mask.
We can do that.
The guys here, they're wonderful, but they're reading through masks. Okay, go ahead, Kathy. Let her rip.
Okay. Vayishma Yisro, Chonen Midyan, Chosein Moshe. You want me to translate each line as I
That
go?
would be a nice thing to do.
Nice thing to do. Okay. Vayishma Yisro and Yisro heard. And now it's just adjectives for Yisro. Chonen Midian, the Kohen of Midian. Chosein Moshe, the father-in-law of Moshe. Es Kol Asher Asa Elokim LaMoshe, about all that Hashem did for Moshe, Yisroel Amo, and for Yisroel, his people. Ki Hotzi Hashem, I'm not sure if it means which or because or
That.
is it that? Okay, that Hashem took out Yisroel, Mimitzrayim, from Mitzrayim.
Okay, you read that excellently. Excellently. So now let's take a look at the 5 questions. Oh, 1 second. Hanoch has a question.
So when you say Le Moshe, it is to Moshe, right? Not for Moshe.
That can mean 4.
It can be for.
Lamed can mean, the prefix lamed means either 2 or 4. And here it's going to mean 4. By the way, for you grammatic buffs, look at that first letter of Choed. It's missing something. What's it missing and why?
Dot.
Because the
Missing a
previous
dot.
letter is
Should be
a vowel.
Kohen.
All right.
Should be Kohen, right? But it says Chohen. Why
The dot
Kohen?
drops out because of
Remember
the
the
alpha before it.
If it follows the letters either Aleph, Hey, Vav, or Yud. Let's look at the letter before Chohen. What is the letter before Chohen?
Vav.
Oh,
A Vav. And is that a large vowel or a small vowel? O is a large vowel.
Large.
Okay, and they're connected. So therefore the dot drops out. That's why it's Chohen Midyan, even though the word is Kohen. Always got to remember it keeps coming back and forth all the time because the cantillation just runs right in that. Okay, very good. So now let's look at the first question after I made the correction. What is problematic with saying Chohen Midyan? What's the problem here? Well,
you want to say?
let's speak to the guys at the table here. What do you say, guys?
We already know who Yisro is.
Well,
And if you, and no, it is not required because you can say Vishma Yitro.
well, did we know that he was a Kohen Midyan yet? I don't know if we know he lived in Midyan. It never told us he was a priest in Midyan yet.
Moshe's father-in-law or was Moshe?
We knew he was Moshe's father-in-law, but we didn't know he was the Kohen Midyan. So what is problematic with saying Kohen Midyan? That we're now finding out he's telling us that he's a Kohen Midyan.
He was one of the priests
Why?
for the
Why?
Pharaoh.
He was what?
One of the 3 ministers for Pharaoh.
Well, he was a minister for Paro, but the Torah's not mentioning that. What is the problem with saying he's a priest of Midian? What's wrong with that?
Wouldn't the priests of Midian already know?
Well, we're writing the text for me and you to know. When we look at this pasuk, Hashem wrote the Torah for all 10 of us
So you said that maybe,
to know this.
so he's trying to say maybe the priest of Midian is coming to get converted to Judaism?
Well, that's true. Hanoch is saying the priest of Midian is coming to convert to Judaism. But let's think about this. What was Yisro's actual name? It was a long Rashi I didn't want to put down. His initial name was Yeser. Yeser.
Their names.
But when he converted, he got an extra vav. So that's a very nice name to call him, Yisro. That's like a Jewish name. Now, what do we know about a Baal Tshuva? What Avera is there for a regular Jew? What kind of Lashon Hara is it possible to say about a Baal Tshuva that you should be careful not to say?
About perhaps their past?
Was in the past.
Yes, we shouldn't remind people of their negative past, right? So now that he is coming here, and obviously he's coming, it's not clear from this one text, but he's coming to convert. Why mention he's a priest of Midian at all? That's a very negative statement, especially when he got a much more positive statement, as Nicole pointed out, that he's the Chosein Moshe. Right? Why didn't it just say Vayishma Yisro Chosein Moshe? That would be a nice thing to say. So why are we mentioning the fact that he was a priest of Midian? Okay, does everybody see the question? Okay, so that is what is problematic with saying Kohen Midian. So the Alshich gives a tremendous answer. Malshich is saying that the Torah is exactly and wants to tell us exactly and precisely how far Yisro came. Look at the praise. He was so far away. He was a priest of Midian. And what did he become? A person who added a section in the Torah. You're going to find out. He's going to give the advice of taking judges and this and that. So the Alshich points out we're mentioning here to think that doesn't matter. Even though he was a Kohen Midian, a lot of people would like to say, oh, I had a really bad past. I can never fix it up. So the Torah is saying, listen, you don't get any lower than being a Kohen Midian. And if you're a Kohen Midian, to be able to rise up to be somebody to convert as a Jew, that means there's always hope. So that's the first point the Alshich says.
So
Yes?
then what is the problem you said? What is the problem with it?
The problem was you don't usually mention a person's negative past.
Oh.
So the Alshich is saying we're mentioning this only to show you that it doesn't matter what your past was. You can still be a Yisro. You can still be a Yisro. Now the question is, what was the secret to his success? And the Alshich tells us what changed him from being the Kohen Midian to being the person who's joining the people now. What was the key
Father-in-law of Moshe.
characteristic?
Revelations, what you know.
It was related to Moshe.
No, that's
All what he heard. All the
Oh.
things that he heard.
it's
was willing
this.
to listen.
Yishma Yisro.
Revelation.
That Yisro heard. That Yisro heard.
Understood.
What does that mean he heard? And we asked in the fifth question, didn't the whole world hear what Yisro said?
Yes. First.
But there's some people, that you could hear it, but you're really not hearing it.
Absorbing it.
Do you understand? Because we said in the Shira that nations heard it and they trembled. Everybody heard about all this. Right. So what's going on over here? That he precisely heard what everybody else heard, but you have to be honest and trying to seek the truth. Remember, he tried every idol in the world, but he was different because he really listened. He was somebody who wanted the truth. He wanted truth so much. That's why he tried every avodah zarah in the world, but he wasn't happy. He was honest with himself. He tried, it didn't work. He says, I want to hear the real truth. So a person who's a real listener can change from the priesthood of Midian to becoming a Yisro. The key to his success was Vayishma Yisro. Yisro, you could hear, and then you could hear deeper. That's what changed it. And that's how the flow of the pasuk goes. Because Yisro could listen so well, he became a Yisro even though he was a Kohen Midian. And he listened to everything that happened. All right, that's the first step on the way. Okay, so what did he hear? What did the pasuk say? What did the pasuk say he heard? What does the Torah say?
It said what happened to Moshe and the Jewish people.
That he heard
All what Hashem did for Moshe.
everything that Hashem did. Kol means everything that Hashem did for most Jewish people. But then it throws in another clause. Ki hotzi Hashem es Yisro Mitzrayim, that he took the Jews out of Mitzrayim. Okay, now what's problematic with the word Limoshe? That's the third question. What's problematic with the word Limoshe?
It's not required
To
because.
separate Moshe from the Jewish people.
Yes, okay, you both said it online and in person.
Yeah.
That Moshe is part of the Jewish people. Isn't Moshe part of Yisro?
Yes.
So we can take a quick look at Rashi. Follow my cursor. We're going to skip the first Rashi, go to the second Rashi. Rashi, look at the title of the Rashi. Lemoshe Yisrael. That's the question that's bothering him. So Rashi gives us a pretty simple answer. There's one hard word here. Shakel means equal. Equal. Shakul Moshe. Moshe is equal. Keneged Kol Yisrael. Like the whole Jewish people. So Rashi is saying, you know why they separate Moshe? Because Moshe himself was equal in stature to the whole Jewish people. So that's why he was separated. But we'll look a little bit deeper and find more to this in a moment. Some of the commentaries add a point. If you look carefully the way the pasuk is broken down, notice it says, "Es kol asher asa Elokim." Starting with that, right? L'moshe was ki hotzi Hashem. So what's going on? How come Elokim over here and Hashem over there?
There is judging and here is love.
So the commentators are noticing something very interesting that Yisro is picking up over here. It says, Yisro heard, you could read like this, as kol asher asa Elokim limoshe, comma. Everything Elokim, and that's the attribute of what?
Judgment.
Judgment. He saw the attribute of judgment that was leveled limoshe, to Moshe. Comma, semicolon. That's one thing he heard. And he also heard, Ul Yisrael Amo. A separate thing. You heard what happened to the Jews. Ki hotzi Hashem es Yisrael mi Mitzrayim. That Hashem took the Jews out of Mitzrayim with the name Yud Hey Vav Hey, which is the name of
Mercy.
Mercy. So what was intriguing him? What was intriguing him is, well, what attribute of judgment do you know was leveled to Moshe?
Well, when
He was allowed to enter the land of Israel at the end of the journey.
That's a great answer, but it didn't happen yet, Jay. That's a great answer. You're right. But Yisro could not have heard that because it didn't happen yet. Okay, there's a story you may not have remembered.
There's something about hitting the rock. Moshe, Hashem asked him to tap the rock, and he hit a rock.
No, that's
instead.
in the future.
That's
as well.
also true, but it didn't happen yet. You're right, but it didn't happen yet. Well, if you
Wait a minute,
recall,
the previous book, Moshe actually was a little aggressive towards Hashem. He actually talked back.
okay, that's true. That's
Okay,
true.
what about at the Yam Suf? It was somebody else who actually took the lead and jumped into the water, not Moshe.
That's true, but that's not showing Hashem's judgment to Moshe. Okay, you may not remember this story. As Moshe was going with his wife to Egypt, There's a story that a snake came in and ate Moshe.
What? A snake ate Moshe?
Swallowed up Moshe.
Not good,
You missed that part, eh?
Nope, yeah.
It was there in Shemos. You want me to show it to you?
I believe you.
You guys don't remember it?
Not up
He
in
was
the-
going to kill him, and then his wife did.
Oh, and then what happened? His wife did what?
Breathe.
Gave a bris milah to the kid.
The snake ate Moshe. That is the
Let me get it fast. Tanakh, Shemos, should be Perek, Dalet. Let me guess. Perek Dalet. I think it's Perek Dalet. Let's see. One second.
He
Oh,
wasn't.
here it is. 24. At a night in camp and on the way, Moshe and his family going to Egypt. First time back. The Lord encountered him and sought to kill him.
Yeah, but how do you know it is a snake? That's one
It was a snake. Trust me. You want to see the commentaries, everything.
Oh, in the commentary.
The comment, I don't know if this Rashi, but it was the angel sought to kill him. Okay, anyway. But what it said, he was remiss. He would deserve death
Right.
because he didn't circumcise his son Eliezer.
Okay.
So look what happens. Look what happens over here. Vatikach Tzipora Tzor, and Tzipora took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched his legs with it, saying, "You are truly a bridegroom of blood to me." And when he let him alone, she added a bridegroom of blood because of the circumcision. So how did Hashem kill him? A snake went and swallowed him. It was going to kill him. And she circumcised the son and saves him in the last minute. You can be sure. And then what happened? When Aaron sees that they're coming, what did Aaron say? Send your wife and son back. It's still a very terrible exile. Just send them back and you stay by yourself. You imagine when Sipporah came back, Yisro's going to say, what are you doing back so soon? I'm sure she told him a few interesting things, no?
Yeah.
So now we can understand
That's me.
what Yisro heard.
Yeah.
And I understand why it's Elohim. He heard Eskola She'os Elohim LaMoshe. Everything that the attribute of justice did to Moshe, wanted to kill Moshe. But to the Jews, what was to the Jews? We saw them all that. Hotzi Hashem is Yisro Mitzrayim. Hashem, with the attribute of mercy, took the Jews out of Mitzrayim. Okay. So here is what was bothering Yisro. Yisro, one of the things was, this is what he heard, and it was bothering him. Why did Moshe get treated worse than the Jews? He's the leader. He's the tzaddik. How did he almost get killed? Well, the Jews never had that kind of a problem. And what did he learn? That God customizes the way he treats people. God does not treat everyone the same. More is expected of the person of higher stature than the person of lower stature. The average person will not be punished with death for delaying a circumcision of their son while traveling in the wilderness. But Moshe was treated differently. You see, that's what he heard. Now, what impressed him so much? He figured if Moshe is treated differently, then we see that our relationship with God is not static. Hopefully, as we grow older, we grow wiser and become better people. We become more experienced. We've seen more of life, and we cannot remain on the same spiritual level for 10, 20, 30 years. And this impressed Yisro. The person has to say, I'm not the same person anymore. I can't be content with the person I used to be. Right? And now Yisro's saying, after I saw the splitting of the Sea of Reeds, and after I saw about the war with Amalek, I can't remain static. I have to grow. I have to become better. And that meant he had to convert. And as a new person, he now knows he has a different relationship with God. He could no longer be a priest to idolatry. He'd seen too much. He'd learned too much from his observations. And what was it? That's why it says that what Elohim did to Moshe had such a profound effect on Yisro. You follow?
Yeah.
Now that I did not say last year at all.
Okay, no.
Not at all. Okay, now there's another. Okay, so far so good?
Yeah.
Okay, we got a lot more. Let's take a look at a Rashi that we did do last. So now you understand why Rashi said, well, Moshe is equal to the Jews. That's true. Moshe is equal to the Jews. And therefore, what Hashem demands more than Moshe. If you're equal to every single Jew, then I demand more from you than I do from each individual Jew. You see what's going on here? So Rashi is telling us an important thing. Yeah, you're right. And because Moshe is equal to all the Jews, that's why Elohim, that your justice comes after him. So everyone, you see righteous people suffering, you have to know something. We don't know the answer always, but what we do know is God expects more because you're capable of more. And that impressed Yisro. He says, it can't be the same Jew you were 10 years ago. You got to be a bit different and better Jew. Because Hashem treats you different as you grow in your Yiddishkeit. Okay, excellent. Yes?
But that scares us to become more righteous because you'll be judged more strongly.
Who?
If you become more righteous, you'll be judged more strictly. So it's scary. So it's better to be a little low, right?
Okay, so Hanoch is asking the following question. Better not to grow. If you don't grow, Hashem doesn't ask more from you. So let me answer that question. Let me answer your question. I have a good answer to your question. Okay, Hanoch, how long are you working at your job?
Now, today came to know it's 10 years at this job.
What?
10 years at this job.
10 years. Have you gotten any promotions?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
How many have you gotten?
5.
5. Now, what happens when you get a promotion? Just in general, I don't need the details.
More responsibilities.
More responsibility. What do you need more responsibility for? You're going to get in more trouble, aren't you? No?
But you can also gain, right?
Right? So why did you, and you wanted the promotion, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you ask for the promotion?
No.
When they offered it to you, you should have said, I don't want it. I don't need this response. Why did you not say no?
Because you're getting all benefits also. Right?
Well, you get benefits. You get benefits. It's called moolah. Money. Okay, how about a Jew? What if God gives you what if you advance in being a Jew? Do you get a promotion?
Yeah.
You get a promotion. You're on a higher level of spirituality. You have a higher place in Olam Haba.
Yes.
Now, when you first were working at your job, I don't know the details, but you know, if you made a mistake in the beginning, it wasn't that significant, right? How about if you make a mistake now?
Okay.
Much worse. Oh, you get fired, right? Yet you're happy with the promotion because you know all the benefits that you get with a promotion. When you grow in Yiddishkeit, there are tremendous benefits. You get closer to Hashem. You're a more spiritual person. You're more in touch with reality. That's an amazing thing to grow in your Yiddishkeit. So it only makes sense that you should be more responsible. So, you know, we instinctively don't want to remain the same person we are. We want to be able to grow. It's a good thing to grow. And you're willing to take the risks that come with the responsibility. Okay, amazing. Let's move on now. Now, of course, the real thing, and we talked about it last year, we're going to talk about it again, but we're going to do a different spin on this. The question that's bothering Rashi more than anything else is the last question of our 5 questions. Didn't the whole world hear what Yisro heard? Right?
No.
Yes. The whole world heard about the Sinai revelation. The whole world knew about the splitting of the sea. This was front news. There was no fake news in those days. They didn't suppress the facts. They didn't work a different narrative. Everybody knew what happened in this pasuk. So why is Yisro being singled out? And this is what Rashi is asking, but it's hard. You have to figure out what Rashi means. Let's take a look. It says, Vayishma Yisro. Now we know what he heard. What did he hear? He heard what Hashem, everything he did for Moshe and the Jewish people. He took the Jewish people out of Egypt. Fine. Look what Rashi asks. Ma shmua shama. What information did he hear, uba, and came? That's a funny question. What did he hear? We know what he heard. The pasuk told us what he heard. That's what I asked you in question number 2. What did Yisro actually hear? And you told me everything he did to the Jews, and he took the Jews out of Egypt. So what is Rashi saying? Ma shmua shama. What did he hear? And look at Rashi says another answer. Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, Umilchemes Amalek, and the war with Amalek. That's not the answer the Torah said. It's a very difficult Rashi. We talked about it in the Parsha class, and we talked about this very Rashi 1 year ago this time in this class. Remember the question? Faintly, hey? So why is Rashi, what did he hear when the pasuk tells us? And he gives us a different answer. So the key to this Rashi is this word. What's this word?
Oh,
Uva. What does uva mean?
and came.
And came. Because you're going to see in the next pasuk, he sends word to Moshe, I'm coming to you. And here's the question. What is it about that Yisro came and nobody else came? This is the real question in this pasuk. It says Yisro heard, but really, if I was really a nice guy, I would have given you the text of the next pasuk. The next few psukim, he comes and he sends a message. I'm coming with your daughter. I'm coming with your grandchildren. I want to join you people. I want to convert and this and that. And the question is, what did he hear? And we come back to that point. What did he hear? So there's a lot of incredible answers to this question. A lot of incredible answers to this question.
More responsibilities.
And that was one thing he heard. But let's think for a minute. Let's think. So obviously the question is, what event did he hear that prompted him to come? Right? What event prompted him to come? But the real point is that he was prompted to come. You know, there's 3 kinds of possible reactions to witnessing a miraculous event. 3 reactions. Reaction 1, those who witness what happens and it doesn't faze them at all. Reaction number 2, there are people who are amazed. Wow! Woo! Did you see what happened? He went and split the sea. Wow! Or as Gomer Pyle would say, Shazam! And golly, Sergeant Carter. But I like better Shazam. No, when I was a little kid, I liked Gomer Pyle, but then when I got older and I found about his biography, I got a little disappointed in him. His life,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. We get it. I can't say more. You know, we could. Facebook might cut us off if I say anything more. Anyway,
Rock and a
but
hard
there's some people, they're amazed. They go Shazam, but then they go, yeah, Taka, we got to do something about it. Yeah, we got to do something about it. And then they just go on with their lives. And they don't act on it. The novelty of Yisro, and that's what Rashi's saying. What did he hear? That made him come. There were many who were inspired by what they heard. Come on, to hear that God destroyed the biggest power in the world with 10 plagues, that's something. Everybody knew this. Everybody knew that there was a splitting of the sea. Like many others, he was inspired. But the difference is he took that inspiration and he came with it. He came to the Jewish people right away. He saw the hand of God. He says, I'm going to do something. I'm going to actualize it. I'm actually going to put it into deed. That's the uniqueness about Yisro. And that's, again, if you're an honest listener, listening can mean, now, if you're not impressed, you're not even listening. The guy goes, Shazam, that's amazing. You're listening. But you're still not a truth seeker, because if you're a truth seeker, you do something about it. So the real Vayishma, you hear it and you internalize it and you act on it. And that's another important message that we have to learn. I'm going to share with you a story or two about this. This is phenomenal stories. Pretend it's Shalashudas time. Because usually at Shalashudas, I tell some stories. This story happened in the great yeshiva of Volozhin about 200 years ago. There was one of the Bachur who was known to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the entire Shas. He was the smartest boy in the yeshiva. And to say you're the smartest boy in the yeshiva Volozhin, that's a big thing. That's a big thing. Okay, so once he and his friends were sitting at a meal, and someone asked him a question from the Talmud, and he didn't know the answer. Somebody else at the table said, oh, that's an explicit statement in this and this commentary. You don't have to know the details. And the smart guy, he was beside himself. He said, how could I have forgotten that commentary? It's a classic commentary. What's the matter with me? I'm the one with the encyclopedic mind. And how could I forget that? So what did he do? In the middle of the meal, they were in the middle of the meal. He didn't finish his food. He didn't bench. He ran to the nearest shul and took a vow that he would learn straight for the next 7 years. He's not going to waste a minute. Of course, he's going to go to sleep and eat breakfast on something, but he's not going to. And for 7 years, he just plugged away. That's what he did, and he became a great, great scholar. There was one problem. What was the problem, guys? He forgot to bench when he ran out. When he knew he didn't know that commentary, he just got up and just went to a place and just started learning. So the people went to the Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Chaim of Volozhin, who was the Rosh Yeshiva. And in retrospect, they said, did he do the right thing or did he do the wrong thing? Do you hear the question? In retrospect, 7 years later, did he do the right thing? Listen to what he said. Reb Chaim, the great rabbi, said, he certainly did the wrong thing by not benching. But had he stopped to say the benching, in those intervening minutes, the passion of the moment would have passed, and he would never have made the vow and never gone to learn the next 7 straight years. You hear? It's not a small thing to leave a biblical commandment to not say the benching after food. But had he waited, the inspiration would have dissipated. And that's the message of Yisro. He heard it and he went. He acted on the inspiration. That's a critical point. To act on inspiration is the key to success. Okay, now, what else would we like to consider? Let's do another Rashi. Now, it says, what did he hear? He heard Kriyas Yamsuf u'Milchemes Amalek. He heard the splitting of the sea and Milchemes Amalek, the war with Amalek. Now, some commentators, why was it called the war with Amalek? Shouldn't it have been called the victory over Amalek? What would be a more accurate description? It was just a battle, or did the Jews win the battle? They won the battle. So why does it just say the war with Amalek? So this is another thing that got Yisro interested and why he was thinking about what's going on and why he felt he had to join the Jewish people. One second. Let me just find, where am I up over here? So the thing is, he's wondering like this. Kriyas Yamsuf, that was the greatest event that happened. The Jews saw the hand of God. They said, this is my God, I will glorify him. this is my God, and they were mamash prophets. You don't get to a higher level. Now, why? What's the spiritual reason? Why did Amalek attack the Jewish people? Just out of the blue, or was there a sin that the Jewish people did? Anybody
Sin.
know?
Yeah, it was a sin. Those people from Dan, they were doing idol worships and they were.
Oh, those are the built from behind.
Yeah.
But there's another reason. What did the Jews do wrong when they didn't have any water?
They started blaming.
They were saying, is God in our midst or not? Is God in our midst or not? And because of that, Hashem said, I'm doing all that for you, and you say, well, I'm in your midst, so I'm going to send Amalek to attack you. So Yisro's running. I don't get it. He heard that God split the sea for them, and they reached the highest spiritual level. And then a couple of weeks later, he hears about the war with Amalek, because the Jews are saying, is God in our midst or not? So the question is, and what was bothering him, his curiosity was, how could it be that people who reach such a high level and watch such miracles, how is it that they could fall so quickly? Do you hear? That's what he heard. You see, how does it happen? Because the war came because the Jews were saying, is God in our midst? He couldn't understand. How could they ask questions? It wasn't that long. It wasn't like years ago that they saw the splitting of the sea. It was only a couple weeks. The splitting of the sea, you see that God, is God in our midst? He didn't understand this combination of these two things. So he said, I got to find out the answer to this. And what was the answer? He says that spirituality, the growth in spirituality, the climb in spirituality is not like climbing a mountain. You know, have any of you ever climbed a mountain?
Yeah.
A big one?
No.
Okay. Well, let's say you climb Mount Everest.
Masada.
Masada is nothing compared to Mount Everest.
Yeah.
You climb Mount Everest, you reach the summit, you put your flagpole there, mission accomplished, it's done, it's over. Now you might decide to climb another mountain, but the first mountain's been conquered and you're never gonna unconquer it, right? It's never gonna be that, okay, I climbed it and now a week later I didn't climb it. Once you climbed it, right?
Right.
Okay. Judaism's not like that. There's two separate stages. There's the challenge of who will climb the mountain of God, as King David says. And then there's the secondary challenge, which is just as important and almost more difficult. Who will stay on the mountain? You could reach high levels in Yiddishkeit. You could aspire. But can you stay on the mountain? And that's what he didn't understand. They saw the splitting of the sea. You know what kind of level they reached? They reached a level of prophecy. And 2 weeks later, they say, is God in our midst? So he's trying to figure out, how does that happen? So what he found out is that's the challenge of Yiddishkeit. The challenge of Yiddishkeit is you got to keep plugging to keep the levels that you're at. And therefore he realized he has to leave. He has to leave. He can't be happy being the coin in Midian. He has to keep growing. And have to realize if you just stay where you're at, you're going to go down and nothing else good is going to come out of that. Okay, one last, okay, I don't know if we got enough time for this. Okay, I think we'll stop it over here. We answered all the main questions over here. There's much more to talk about, but this is powerful messages over here. Again, we see the messages that Hashem treats everybody differently, expects more from everybody. Hashem says, you know, it's great to reach high levels, but you got to keep on the level isn't easy. You see as well that that he listened properly, and he moved on what he saw, and to act on the things that you hear, and not to let things fly by. And I think that's a big message, because there's a lot to hear now. In the history of the world is at a place that we got to really have our ears listening. And there are people who just listen, there's people who hear, and people who act. So Hashem should help us to really hear what the messages are over here and to be able to act appropriately. Okay, any questions, comments? We're good?
Good. Very good.
A whole different class with the same pasuk. Okay.
Easy.
What was the historical question?
Oh, the historical question, I didn't get to it. We didn't get to the historical question. Guess what? You'll have to come to Shalosh Chodesh.
Oh, that is good.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what, I don't know. Or maybe in the drush. Maybe the Erev Shabbos drush. Maybe. I'll see where it fits in better. Okay, so a huge bulletin coming tomorrow. The hugest one. There's so much happening, guys. And the biggest thing is I'm changing my email address. The one I had for 20 years.
Effective tomorrow.
You'll get an email tomorrow. It's not Yossi at Rogers anymore.
Oh, Gmail.
That's the biggest news. It's Rabbi Michalowicz at gmail.com.
Wow.
Lowercase. Now you're going to have to know how to spell Michalowicz.
Hey, Rabbi, I went through the whole thing. I changed up my volume to my Gmail. It was,
Okay, we'll see what happens. Okay, very good. Sei gesund, everybody. Have a wonderful